Hi folks, and welcome to Tiny Kitchen. The kitchen's so small, a cutting board on the sink passes for counter space. We're pretty sure this is the smallest space that's ever been used to film a cooking show, and we're excited to be here at our debut presentation. Today we're going to make a taco recipe for you, a taco recipe fully compliant with the RFL or Rapid Fat Loss phase of the Fat Free With Me weight loss program. A taco recipe that's good for weight loss? Absolutely. It takes some creativity, but it is delicious, refreshing, and I promise you're going to love it. One other thing, we asked a trivia question on our Facebook page. What 2 things add to the taste of food that have nothing to do with the food or its preparation? We have the answer for that at the end of this episode. Hey, an apron found me, so I guess we better go ahead and get started, huh? Now, if you're on the Fat Free With Me weight loss program, you know that the RFL phase dinner requires 3 components: a protein, a dark leafy green, and a fruit to get your healthy carbohydrates. Now, if you're wondering how we're going to combine a protein, a dark leafy green, and a fruit into a delicious and tasty taco that's spicy, that's crisp and cool and to die for, well, hang on to your shorts because you're going to love this recipe. So kale is all the rage these days, and it's going to make a great addition to our taco recipe as well. Kale is one of the most nutritious dark leafy greens that there is, and if there is a superfood, it's got to top the list. Now I want to show you some tricks to working with leafy greens. They don't have to be the difficulty that everyone thinks they are. Let's start just with the leaf itself. We're always told to cut out the thick part of the stalk, right? And that's a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be because the stalk will really take care of itself. Just fold your leaf in half, grab it firmly, hold the stalk, and pull. When you get to the part where the stalk is no longer thick, it will take care of itself and it'll come right out. Now if you want, you can take the leaf and you can chop it up. We're going to use our food processor for that. Now using the food processor, we're going to pulse the kale down until it's just a very small bite-sized piece. And it's amazing what a difference that makes in the texture of kale. No longer is it fibrous in our mouth and hard to chew and goes down and fills our throat. Instead, it becomes a crispy, wonderful, sweet way to eat the green that has none of the difficulty at all. So we're going to start with 2 bunches of kale, and we're going to strip it off the stalk and place it into our food processor. Now, as you can see, that makes our food processor pretty full, right? But it's not going to be that way for long. When you pulse kale, it's going to break down a lot very, very quickly. Let's go ahead and put the top on our food processor, and we're only going to pulse. We're not going to run it. You'll find when you pulse, it pulls the vegetable down into the blades a lot better. Instead of when you run it continuously, it kind of throws the vegetable up and misses it. So let's pulse it down. Once you reach the point where the greens are broken down and very, very small, as you can see they are right now, very, very fine, but not liquid. You want to be careful not to start bringing the liquid out. Then we'll set this aside for use a little bit later. Now you're probably already saying, hey, greens are bitter. Kale is bitter. What are you going to do putting bitter in a taco? But let me tell you something. When it comes to spicing a dish, people very often make the mistake of trying to overpower a flavor with a spice, to cover it, to hide it. You don't want to do that. You want to choose your spice selections to complement the flavors of the food that you're putting in, to bring out the best, and to actually turn that bitter into something very pleasant. And when we start making our taco, we're going to use the Tiny Kitchen Baja Spice Blend, which contains a little bit of the sweet spice fennel. And the sweet spice together with the salt is going to actually take that bitter and turn it into a very flavorful thing. You're really going to love this. Okay, so we're going to take this and we're going to set it aside. So we have several things that we need to cut up and prep before we start cooking. One is our protein dish. Now tonight we're going to use chicken breast for our protein. If you're a vegetarian, I strongly recommend using seitan. It's a fermented wheat product that has the texture and the consistency equivalent to a meat. and we'll take the flavor of the spices and the sauces that we're going to add later and really do them justice. But we're going to use chicken tonight. We're also going to use, in our prep, a half of a medium yellow onion, 4 cloves of garlic, and of course our Tiny Kitchen Baja Spice Blend. When you're cutting up several things, including meats and vegetables, always, always, always cut your vegetables first. You don't want to risk cross-contaminating your meat into your vegetables. That's a great way to get food poisoning. So we're going to cut our vegetables first and our meat last. Now our garlic in this case, we just want to slice. We're not looking to mince it. We want to slice just about so thick. And we'll take all 4 cloves of garlic and slice them this way. And we'll put those back on our plate. And we'll grab our 1/2 of a medium onion, again in line with the axis, make several cuts across the top, about 1/8 of an inch apart. And then you'll come through and quarter turn your onion, and you'll cut down at 90 degrees to those. And what you'll wind up with is a perfectly minced onion, because the layers of the onion will automatically provide your last cut. Put these back on our plate as well. And then we'll set our vegetable plate aside, and we'll bring our chicken breast up. We're going to want to cut our chicken breast into chunks about 1/2 inch each way. Now when you're cutting meat, always make your first cuts against the grain. The grain of our chicken is going this way. I'm going to cut this way. That's what provides a more tender, more flavorful meat when you cook it in the end. If you slice with the grain, you wind up with the links of the muscle tissue being fibrous and making your meat tough. So we're going to make a cut about every 1/2 inch. And then we're going to turn our meat 90 degrees, and we'll go about every 1/2 inch the other direction as well. All of our prep work is done. While I'm heating up the skillet, I want to take you back to yesterday when we made the salsa and the sauce. Okay, what we're looking at is the ingredients for our salsa. Today I'm going to opt to go for a cool salsa, not a hot and spicy salsa. So the ingredients we're going to use are Persian cucumbers, which I've chosen because they're a little firmer in texture, not quite so soft and seedy in the middle. Cherub tomatoes. I've chosen the cherub tomatoes for the sweet quality, together with the fact that they're firm and brightly colored, so when we put the salsa on our finished taco, the color will be beautiful as well as the fresh taste. Cilantro, a fresh lime, garlic, and onion. Now, I'm going to chop these up by hand simply because I like the texture and the look that you get better, but you can do the same thing in a food processor if you choose. Put the ingredients in and pulse it just lightly until you reach the size of chunks that you're looking for but aren't getting it too liquid. Okay, starting with the Persian cucumbers, I've taken these already and I've washed them with a scrub pad. Now we leave the skins on for the salsa for both the flavor and the vitamin content, but you don't want to have the pesticides and the dirt and the bugs and the debris that come with garden-grown vegetables. So I've washed these not just under water, but with a light scrub pad to take off just the top of the skin surface. We're going to cut the ends off both sides, and then to dice the cucumber, we're just going to run our knife down the middle. We're going to make 2 long cuts on the half, and then we're just going to mince the cucumber from there. We'll move that off to the side. To cut the tomatoes, I'm going to do a similar thing, only I'm going to score down lengthwise, and then I'm going to cut into just short little discs, which of course fall in half as they come off. That'll leave just the perfect size chunk for the salsa that we're making. On the garlic, we're going to want to mince it. So I'll go once lengthwise, and then I'll make very small cuts. For the onion, a lot of people have trouble cutting onions, but they're really not that hard. If you cut the onion in half down its long axis, take one half and put it over, and again down the long axis make a series of cuts. You'll use the actual shape of the onion or the layered nature of the onion to your favor, because each time you make a cut, all the other cuts that will make it a minced onion are made for you by the layers of the onion. So we can simply cut down horizontally from here, and what we'll have is a minced onion. Okay, we'll take these at this point and we'll put them into our bowl. We'll use just a standard bowl. The easy way to get them into a bowl is with this little device, and I honestly don't know what this device is called, but it's a chopper scraper basically. It's not sharp. You can use it to chop certain things, but its most convenient nature is the ability just to scoop up off of your table. I found this at Bed Bath & Beyond. I'll be darned if I can remember what it's called. So once we have those into our pan, cilantro, we're simply going to want to put the bunch onto the table, and starting with the leaves, we're going to just chop it up small until we get down here to the woody stems, and we won't use those. So just starting with the front, we'll chop them into just small sections. And then when we get down to the woody section of the stem, we'll put that aside. All right, I'm going to go ahead and chop the vegetables. See how bright and beautiful those tomatoes are? And I'm telling you, these are sweet. They're absolutely delicious. Now, our taco and our sauce is going to have a spicy zing to it, as will our taco wrappers. So for the sauce, I want to season it lightly, and I want to keep it cool and fresh so that it doesn't overpower the taco, in fact, instead contributes to it. So I'm going to take 1/2 of a lime, and I'm going to squeeze it over the top here. And then I'm going to use our Tiny Kitchen celery salt. Now, any celery salt will work for this. I use the Tiny Kitchen blend because of the fact that we make it with Hawaiian Alea sea salt, which is absolutely the most wonderful salt for fresh vegetables like this. It's just a wonderful blend. We're going to put the celery salt over the top. Now, of course, we're not making the tacos until tomorrow. The reason for that is we want to give overnight for this combination of vegetables to assimilate flavors. We want the wonderful zest of that cilantro to work its way through the entire salsa, as well as for the taste of the celery and the salt to work its way through. So we're going to take a Tupperware container. This isn't actually Tupperware, but a storage container of some sort. We're going to transfer our salsa to this container. There's a little bit of headroom in the top. We're going to go ahead and put the lid on, and we're going to shake it up. We're going to run it upside down, sideways, upside up, and get everything inside there mixed up very well. Make sure the celery salt gets moved all the way through it, and make sure the cilantro gets moved all the way through it until you look in the bottom and you see that everything is mixed up. Now we're going to put this in the refrigerator until tomorrow. And now we'll move to the sauce. And for this, we are going to use the food processor. We want to get a nice, smoothly blended sauce that we can put in our taco later. Now, this sauce, as we mentioned at the beginning, this entire taco works for the RFL stage, or the rapid fat loss phase, of the Fat Free With Me program. And as such, it's a tofu-based sauce. Now, I have to be honest with you, I don't really like tofu, but I do love this sauce. And there's a number of sauces that can be made with tofu that, using complementary spice combinations, can really make it quite wonderful. So I want you to try this with an open mind, and you're going to be surprised at how delicious this really is. This is a very simple sauce. 1 package of extra firm sprouted tofu, the other half of our bunch of cilantro, the other half of our lime, and Tiny Kitchen Baja blend. Baja blend is made up of paprika, chili powder, cilantro, celery seed, and a couple of other spices. It's a very pleasant blend. While it does pack a punch and is spicy, it also has a tremendous amount of flavor. So we're going to go ahead and take our tofu. We're just going to cut around the edge with a knife so that we can open it. Now this is going to be wet when you open it. You want to open it over the sink and allow the excess water to drain into the sink. And then once the water is gone, we'll take the tofu into our food processor. We don't need to chop up our cilantro. We can simply take off the woody stems and take the rest of the cilantro and put it right here in our food processor. The other half of our lime, just squeeze it right in there. And we're going to start with 1 teaspoon of our Baja spice blend from Tiny Kitchen. After we get this mixed up, we can add 2 if we feel that we need more. So let's go ahead and put the lid on. Start up our food processor on low, and we're going to let it go. The tofu will go through a chunky stage. The chunks will gradually get smaller, and then it will start to cream, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, now that it's starting to become nice and creamy, you can see how it's getting a wonderful texture to it. Now's the time to have a taste and to see if it's spicy the way we like it. I'm telling you, that's really delicious. However, I like to have my sauce a little bit spicier than that, so we're going to add another teaspoon of the Tiny Kitchen Baja mix. We'll try a taste of that and see how we are. Oh, that is perfect. Now, as with the salsa, we want these flavors to blend overnight until tomorrow so that what's already a delicious sauce is going to turn into something magnificent to use on our tacos tomorrow. So I'll go ahead and put this in a Tupperware. We'll wash up the kitchen, and we'll see you tomorrow. Welcome back to Tiny Kitchen. I've chosen the best nonstick surface that I know of for this next step, and that's a well-seasoned cast iron pan. You'll notice that this pan has a slight sheen to it already from the 6 months of service that it's already put in for me. And through the coming years, that sheen will just grow and grow, improving the surface of the pan. It works better than any nonstick surface there is. And for those that always wonder how I accomplish non-oil cooking, that is cooking without oil, you're about to see, because we're going to do it here. We're going to set our oven on medium heat, and we're going to start this process with the garlic, because the garlic takes the longest to cook. So we'll throw the garlic into the pan, and you want to always keep your garlic moving. A wok works excellent for this process too, for the same reason. A wok is a seasoned surface, particularly if you get a carbon steel wok and season it according to the instructions we've given on the Fat Free With Me website. You don't want to get your garlic all the way caramelized right now because we're going to add onions too, and we don't want to burn the garlic as we go. We're simply starting the garlic first because it takes the longest to cook. So once we first start seeing our garlic brown, as it's doing right now, we'll go ahead and introduce our onion. And we'll toss it all together and begin the caramelization of the onions. Now once again, we're not going to cook our onions all the way through either. We're going to allow them to finish cooking together with the chicken as we add it. We simply want to cook it until the onion begins to brown and starts to become slightly translucent. And you'll notice as we keep the food moving on the bottom of the skillet, Both the seasoning of the skillet and the constant motion work together to prevent anything from sticking to the bottom as we cook. So right now we're starting to see brown appear on the onion, and we're getting a little bit of translucence, so we'll go ahead and add our chicken. Now, the chicken, you'll notice right away, does stick, but it won't continue to stick. When you put meat into a seasoned skillet, it will stick only until the surface begins to cook. Once the surface begins to cook, it will release the skillet down below, and we'll continue our operation. And when we flip it over, you'll see the whiteness and a little bit of brown forming on the bottom of the chicken as it releases from the skillet. It really doesn't take long. You'll notice we can already start to move it around. Now, as you cook chicken, it's also going to create a little bit of liquid of its own that'll form in the bottom of the pan. You can start to see that develop right now. Chicken has a great deal of oil in it already, even the breast meat, as do most meats. So if you're ever wondering whether you get enough oil in your diet, as long as you're eating meats, you are. There's no need whatsoever to cook with added oils. All right, I'm going to let that sit a little bit on this side until the meat starts to cook towards the center. And in a good warm skillet, that doesn't take very long, so we'll go ahead and we'll roll it over. If you have pieces with pink facing the top, go ahead and make sure they get rolled over so that the pink is facing the bottom now. Now, something interesting about spices. There's 3 stages to most spices, or 3 levels. There's a base flavor to the spice, and the base flavor, no matter how long you cook the spice, the base flavor can stay there. It carries through. There's a medium level to the spice, and the flavors in that medium level can actually be cooked out if you leave them in your food for too long. So you want to be very careful that you don't put spices in too early. And then there's a 3rd level that's called the volatiles. Now, very fragrant spices like the spice we're going to use, the Tiny Kitchen Baja blend, fragrant spices tend to have a lot of volatiles, and they cook out very, very quickly. So you never want to put them in your dish too soon, or you'll lose much of the flavor. It'll just simply cook out. When we're almost completely cooked with the chicken is when we want to add the Tiny Kitchen Baja spice. Now, the Tiny Kitchen spices are designed to meld with a healthy lifestyle. We're going to be cooking with kale in this dish, and the Baja blend includes fennel and other sweet spices that work together with the kale to create a nice, pleasant, tasty blend. You'll notice when you use the Baja spice, the bitterness associated with kale just vanishes. Because just like blue and yellow make green, kale and Tiny Kitchen Baja spice make a very pleasing, fragrant taste. So we'll go ahead and we'll mix the Baja spice in a little bit, and now we're going to go ahead and add our kale. Now, our chicken is just very nearly done. It's only seconds away, which is excellent because you only want to add your kale long enough to turn it into the chicken, to blend it. You don't want to cook the kale because, like spices, vegetables will cook out certain flavors. There's a sweetness to kale when it's raw and fresh, and we don't want to lose that in this dish. So we're just going to keep it in long enough to turn it into the chicken, and then we're going to turn the heat off, and we'll move on to our next step. Okay, who remembers the trivia question we asked at the start of the show? Do you remember? What 2 things greatly influence the taste of food for better or for worse, yet have nothing to do with the food or its preparation? And the answer is food assembly and plating, or to use one word, presentation. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and received a dish that looked so good you couldn't wait to dive into it before you even knew what it was? Presentation. In the cooking shows on TV, the competitions especially, plating and presentation is everything, and the contestants work so hard to make their dish beautiful so the judges are influenced before they even taste it. And you should do this at home too. Keep your eye out at thrift stores, at discount stores, at import stores for creative ways to present your food that make it fun and that make it taste delicious even before your family or your guests bite in. Today I want to use a bowl that I picked up over the weekend at Cost Plus Imports. This is just a basic wooden bowl. You can't put it through a dishwasher. You have to wash it by hand. But what a beautiful presentation for our taco dish tonight, stacked wall to wall inside this dish. And the way we put our tacos together before we put them in here will accent the dish so that when we deliver it, we're delivering something that we're really proud of. Make sure you take that into consideration when you cook food, because nothing tastes good flopped on a plate. Let's get busy putting our tacos together to fill this beautiful bowl. Now, I told you before we're going to wrap our tacos in greens because these tacos are designed to complement the rapid fat loss phase of the Fat Free With Me weight loss program. Now, you know as well as I do, whenever anything gets wrapped in a green, it gets wrapped in lettuce. Boring. Lettuce is 90% water. All you're doing is watering down your food. It's terrible. And it does nothing to accentuate the flavor of whatever it is that's getting wrapped, right? Now we're making tacos. Tacos are spicy. They're supposed to have flair. They're supposed to have some kick. And there's no better broadleaf green we can use as a wrapper for that than mustard greens. They have their own kick to complement the flavor of the taco that they're going to wrap around. Watch. A mustard green is broadleaf. There's several different kinds of mustard. There's a red mustard, a green mustard such as this one. There's mustard with more ruffly skins. There's all kinds. You want something that's just going to be broad enough that when you fold it, which will fold right along, see where the axis of the stem goes? We're just going to fold it right there. That way the mustard green will fold around our taco while not breaking the leaf because it has a natural bend right there. So we're going to look for the ones that are a little bit broader. The ones that are too skinny, we're just going to put those aside for now. We're going to do something a little bit different here in that we're not going to remove all of the thick stem. When a mustard green is raw and fresh, you'll find that that stem chews to a crispiness, all except for this part down on the bottom, which tends to be very fibrous. So what we're going to do is just cut off the bottom portion of the stem and we'll leave the top, and now we have our taco wrappers. Now you remember yesterday we made this amazing sauce and salsa for our taco. We left them in the refrigerator overnight so that the flavors could meld together. So now we're going to bring in the meat that we just made, which is sufficiently cooled off now, our salsa, isn't that beautiful? And our sauce. And we're going to assemble our tacos in a three-step fashion. The first is we'll take a leaf, we'll take a small amount of the sauce, and we'll put in the bottom. Now remember, the sauce is also protein-based, so you're getting part of your protein from the sauce and part of it from the chicken, which is going to go in next. And then over the top of it all, this beautiful, beautiful salsa. And then we're going to take our taco, and to prevent it from falling apart while we're creating our presentation tray, I'm just going to put a little glass in there to hold it up. So you can see the glass will hold the taco in place until we're ready to put the next taco in. And then we'll just create this assembly line, a little bit of sauce, a little bit of the chicken, a little bit of this beautiful, beautiful salsa. Well, are you ready to take a look at what we've got? What do you think, guys? Well, that's it for today's episode of Tiny Kitchen. I really hope you enjoyed hanging out here. I can't wait to do it again next week. If you have questions about the Fat Free With Me weight loss program, just visit us at fatfreewithme.com. For information on the Tiny Kitchen line of spice blends and their amazing array of delicious variety, they're not available for sale yet. If you're interested, you can drop us an email at customercare@fatfreewithme.com, and we'll keep you posted when they're available right here. Coming to you from the tiniest kitchen ever to be used in a cooking show, I'm your host, Belden Colm. Thank you for joining us.